As Ronald Reagan said, we're tired of being told that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. Donald Trump gets it, and he understands the American people.
A certain number of votes for candidate one.
Indiana Governor Mike Pence laying out the theme of change versus the status quo in his first official appearance yesterday as Donald Trump's running mate. And we're back now with the panel as the roll call continues here 3 days before it actually is going to happen. We want to put up a new poll, an ABC Washington Post poll, which shows that on the eve of the convention, Clinton leads Trump 47-43, still a 4-point lead. But as you can see, that's down from a 12-point lead just a month ago. Clinton down, Trump up a bit, and one wonders, at least in Clinton's falling numbers, whether the FBI non-indictment but political scolding from FBI Director James Comey had a role in that. Anyway, Brit, the news this week, Mike Pence, what do you think of the pick?
Solid pick, safe pick, reassuring pick as far as the remnant of the Republican Party, which is not rallied to Trump's side. You know, that you think about Trump's position, you're trying to add up the numbers for a general election. Mitt Romney got 93% of the Republican vote and won the independents and still lost. So the sort of the first order of business for Donald Trump will be to fill out the Republican support, so he has at least that. It would be great for him if he could get more, but it's a real task. He doesn't have that. It's reflected by who's here and who's not here in this convention hall. So he picked somebody who is in the Republican mainstream, and I think it was a safe but if unexciting choice.
We ask you for questions for the panel, and we got a bunch about the choice of Mike Pence as a running mate. Here's one of them. Soup, I'm going to say that's how you pronounce that. Soup tweeted this: will Pence harm Trump's non-ideological, personality-driven brand? Julie, how do you answer, Soup?
I think it's a great question because, yes, it was a safe choice in the sense that it would appeal to Republicans who have been skeptical of Trump, but it goes so against type for Trump. He's picking someone who has a long Washington history, not just a governing history, a Washington history, someone who is very ideological, who does have a conservative philosophy. And a lot of people who are drawn to Trump are not drawn to him because of ideology. So it is possible that someone like a Newt Gingrich would have been better for the brand. It would have made more sense with what Trump has been saying and what his temperament and demeanor has been. But this is all about putting together your general election coalition, and Trump did need someone who could at the very least shore up Republicans.
As we were sitting here in the skybox where we're going to be broadcasting all this week, Bret Baier, who's going to be anchoring our specials coverage along with Megyn Kelly, noted something interesting about the floor. Bret?
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is each year, each convention, you see where the states are placed, the map of the states. And if you look at, as they're getting ready to call up Alabama, you can see Alabama is up front. These states are organized by how they voted for Donald Trump, not by their importance as being swing states or even the home state. Ohio is jammed in the corner. Remember, John Kasich won Ohio, the governor of Ohio.
And let me just interrupt to say, in my experience, which goes back a lot of conventions, the home state always has pride of place and is, if not at the front, very close to the front.
So, but also in the front, Connecticut. I mean, that's not exactly your primary state of importance, but guess what? They overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. So you look at where the states are placed, that's interesting. It's a little bit telling. He's also involved, we're told, with this rollout, and the family has played a really strong role. Ivanka Trump is going to introduce her father on the final night.
But we do hear this unusual for a presidential candidate that Trump is, well, he fancies himself as a great producer, that he's very involved in producing every bit of this convention.
He is, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it's received. There's a whole bunch of different speakers, but the message that is going to be really hit home again and again and again is one you heard from Mike Pence yesterday, is that the GOP cannot allow Hillary Clinton to become president of the United States, and that will be the unifying message that they hope brings everybody on board.
So, Kirsten, let's talk about the Clinton team, the headquartered in Brooklyn. What do they make of Mike Pence's selection? And is there someone that they were worried? Because I suspect it's not Pence. Is there someone that they were worried that Trump might pick?
Well, I mean, we know the sort of final three were Christie, Gingrich, and Pence, and they were definitely chomping at the bit for it to be Gingrich. They were ready to go. The expectation was if it was a Gingrich or a Christie, you could be sure within 24 to 48 hours they were going to say something they shouldn't have said. It was, you know, they had a long laundry list, obviously, with Gingrich. They could have gone after him, and that they were ready for that. Pence is a little harder because he's not somebody who's probably going to go off script, but, you know, they will make lemonade from lemons, and in this case, they're going to paint him, as we've seen already, as somebody who's ideologically out of the mainstream with the average American, that he's an extremist from their perspective on abortion rights issues. He, of course, signed that law last year that was very controversial, a religious freedom law. If you look at it from his perspective, from the other side, is something that was anti-gay. And so they will paint him that way. And I think that it's great for Trump that he can use him to shore up the base, but it also, per what Julie was saying, he is somebody that maybe some Democrats would have voted for, people who are unhappy with Hillary, but not if they see him as somebody who's going to line up with some of the views of a Mike Pence.
Chris, let's be clear really about what a vice presidential choice can do. It can help to unite the party, and it can help to unify your convention. Once you get past that and out into the general election, there's no history that I can even think of where a vice presidential selection has been decisive in any way. Now, we had the disaster, of course, with George McGovern and Thomas Eagleton back in 1972, where Eagleton had to leave the ticket. But barring something like that, the vice president's role is, in a sense, over after the convention once you get out on the trail.
This is about Trump. It's all about Trump.
And the other thing is, if Pence were a more luminous figure in terms of his personality, there would be some possibility he might, to some extent, steal the show. But does anybody on earth think that Donald Trump is not going to make the campaign about him?
But
I mean, look, the announcement.
Though, Brit, I mean, it is a little unusual to have somebody choose somebody who's so different from them ideologically.
Well,
I mean, typically candidates are pretty much on the same
Well,
page.
maybe, but you know, there's an awful lot of ticket balancing that's been done by doing very much that. And look at what happened in the announcement. To get back to my previous point, Trump comes out to announce Pence and talks about himself for a half an hour, introduces Pence, Pence is talking, and Trump leaves. So,
well, he does wait till the end of the speech.
Well, I get that, but you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, it's about him, and he wants it to be about him. And one of the things I think he has to think about going forward is, you know, Hillary Clinton is a pretty target-rich environment, and she's not popular and not trusted. So, do you want to make the campaign about her? Maybe so, but is Trump willing to do that? Or is he going to make it inevitably and just because of the way he is about him?
I think one of the potential risks in the Pence pick is that Trump has very deftly avoided social issues in this campaign, which within the Republican Party and obviously within the electorate more broadly can be a real trouble spot. And Pence is so closely aligned with conservatives. Trump is now going to have to answer for some of those positions. What does he say there?
Mike Pence, when he ran a lot like Bob McDonnell did in Virginia, which is he was a social conservative who ran on the economy and ran on economic issues. So I think that, you know, that's one element. The other thing is the criticism about the introduction, 28 minutes. Every network took that. And Donald Trump knew that, and he used it. And they took it all. And it was classic Donald Trump.
No, I have to say, off camera, Paul Manafort said exactly that you know, we're going to lose the opportunity to make our case, not just introduce Mike Pence in that time. So he took it, but I do have to say, my favorite line was every once in a while he'd say, back to Pence.
Exactly.
All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting convention. I think it'll be a different convention. And I will say, because I was talking to Paul Manafort off camera about the stage, which is quite dramatic, and he said there's going to be an interesting change on Thursday night. He, of course, wouldn't tell me what it was, but be prepared that this sort of Starship Enterprise may change as we get to Thursday night. Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday with all the Democrats in Philadelphia.